Good afternoon, everybody. A warm welcome to the National SDG Roundtable dedicated to single-use plastics, and more specifically to responsible management of single-use plastic in coastal areas. Just before we start, I would like to share with you two technical information. We will have a Q&A session toward the end of our roundtable. You are more than welcome to, of course, ask questions and have any comments on the presentation and the roundtable. And for that, we would like to invite you to use the chat function, which is on the right side of your screen. Thank you very much. So we have the great pleasure today to have with us around the table, around the screens, distinguished guest speakers. First of all, we have the pleasure to welcome Mr. Dr. Konstantin Arabosis from the Greek Ministry for Environment and Energy. Dr. Antonis Zoupas, Assistant Professor at the Open University of Cyprus. Ms. Stavroula Angelopoulou, Deputy Director, OTE Group and Board Member at CSR Hellas. Ms. Kelly Dovletoglou, Corporate Responsibility Consultant at Lidl Hellas and SIA. Ms. Lilian Waxweiler, Senior Manager Corporate Services at Fidelity International, Luxembourg. And last but not least, Mr. Alexandros Kostopoulos, Board Member of CSR Hellas Board Member of CSR Europe and Business Development Manager at CSR Hellas. So, plastic. 9 billion tons of plastic have been produced in the 50s. Only 9% of the plastic waste produced ended up recycled. The equivalent of one garbage truck is dumped into the ocean every minute. And at this fronting rate, by 2050, the seas will contain more plastic mass than fish. So plastic, this wonderful invention that actually facilitates our everyday life, has actually turns out to be a ticking bomb. Its exponential production leads to lands and even continents of waste, as plastic isn't usually biodegradable. Designed to last and particularly durable, it's nevertheless intended for very limited uses and even sometimes single use. So it has become the sad symbol of the ultra-disposable of our society. Worse, with times, molecules break down into particles, smaller particles, which are spread into the air we breathe, the food we eat, the water we drink. So it's high time to say stop. As key stakeholders of our societies and as producers and or consumers, businesses have a role to play, and indeed they have a power to act and a power to have impact. This is what we will look at together with you and together with our guest speakers today. We will share with you today initiatives, frameworks, tools, best practices on responsible management of single-use plastic. So first, let me welcome our first guest speaker, Dr. Konstantin Arabosis. Welcome to you. So the single-use plastic topic is especially a hot topic for Greece, as tourism is the key sector in your country. And as we are all aware, there is heavy consumption of single-use plastic items in the tourism industry, especially in the transportation and lodging part of the tourism industry. There has been a European directive in 2019, among other things, on reduction of single-use plastic. So how is Greece doing on this issue? Please. Oui, Mr. Arbosis, we can't hear you. You need to unmute yourself.
Okay, thanks a lot for inviting me to this very interesting panel concerning responsible management of single-use plastics. And I would say that it is a very good timing now because we have passed through the very recent law for single-use plastics according to the EU directive. And so it is now legislated in Greece that we will follow the EU directive. And I must say that this legislation has come, it was last month in October, and so since the deadline of the EU is by June 2021, we are already ahead of this deadline, and this is also a symbol for our political intention to go on very rapidly with issues concerning the environment, and especially since plastics is an issue, and in the following I will give you more details about how we have adapted to the EU regulation. So because for us it's very important, and we have to leave time for all involved parties, the consumers and the Greek public, to adapt to this new legislation, but also for the industry to adapt to that. Circular economy is a key issue also in our policy in Greece, in our environmental policy. And you know that it is associated with SDG goals, and I know that this conference is is connected to SDG, to the SDG agenda. You know that 7 out of the 17 SDG goals are related to environmental issues. And for example, G13 has to do with climate action, G14 life below water, and G12 is associated to what we have just legislated and to circular economy, it's responsible consumption and production. So we have to move on also according to our environmental policies in Greece to more sustainable production and consumption patterns. And this will of course have an effect not only to the environment, but this is also connected to new jobs, to growth. We see that circular economy issues and this legislation that I will describe next in the following is associated to sustainable growth, is associated to new techniques that will have to be incorporated in all aspects of the economy. So in Greece, the Greek Ministry of Environment and Energy has undertaken important initiatives within circular economy. We have in fact 2 committees, an intergovernmental committee where we have representatives of all productive ministries represented. These representatives form the Interministerial Council for circular economy, and there is also another council. It is the National Council for Circularity, where we have representatives of all parts of Greek economy, the private sector, and what we expect within this month is that we will have a framework, we will have let's say, a business plan, which is a roadmap of how to implement circular economy principles and exactly what to implement within a certain time frame in order to transform Greek economy in the circular way. So by the end of this month, we will have the roadmap, and this will affect all parts of the Greek economy. And this roadmap will transform the industry. For example, for us, it's very important to have new production, circular production patterns. And for example, we also, apart from that, it's very important to have new consumption patterns. And associated to that is the new law that we passed through the parliament for a reduction of the impact of certain plastic products on the environment, what I mentioned before. And within this framework, I can just some of the points that are addressed. It is very important to say that this law comes under a very thorough and deep consultation period with all involved parties. There were over 30 teleconferences with all representatives of the involved private industry and also NGOs, universities, and all involved parties have made proposals which we have tried to incorporate in this law. So there we don't have just a translation of the EU obligation. What we have here is, apart from that, also certain actions that go over our obligations. First of all, by July 2021, there will be a withdrawal of specific single-use plastic products like cotton bud sticks, cutlery, forks, knives, spoons, chopsticks, straws, plate, beverage stirrers, food containers, cups for beverages made of expanded polystyrene. And apart from that, there is a target for the consumption reduction for single-use plastics, food containers, and cups, 30% by 2024 and 60% by 2026. There is a requirement for marking products, aiming at redesign of products based on more ecological criteria. So we will also introduce new products in the extended producer responsibility scheme. And we will also introduce a deposit refund system for separate collection of bottles and other products, and also awareness raising measures. But these are included in the directive, but apart from that, we have also some national measures, like the proposal for the environmental fee on specific single-use products from 2022 onwards, with the aim to return this amount through the Green Fund to local authorities and regions for environmental protection measures. We will also enforce reuse practices like the obligatory use of alternative products from restaurants starting from 2022. We will introduce an obligation to include 25% up to 35% by 2030 of recycled material in plastic PET bottles, and a set of penalties for the non-compliance with the provision of the law. So we think that we have adapted this law according to the proposals that we had from 44 different bodies that were involved in the consultation process, and that represent 10 branches of the Greek market with almost 6,000 members. And what I would also like to mention is that we are going to develop a program for financially supporting the industry in its adaptation, which is very important. And we think that industry will have time to adapt, and we will help in any way on that. Concerning plastics and the marine environment, which is also a very important issue, as you know, as you might know, there is a Commission decision 2017-848 EU decision. The Commission assessment, there is an EU legal instrument to address explicitly marine litter. You know that within marine litter, 80% is represented by plastics, and 50% of that is single-use plastics. So it's a very important issue to cope with that problem concerning marine litter. The Ministry has introduced monitoring programs of the marine environmental status, and we conduct this monitoring through systematic measurement according to the provisions of the EU directive. Our General Secretariat is responsible for the execution of the Marine Strategy Framework Directive in order to ensure that properties and quantities of marine litter do not cause any harm to the coastal and marine environment. So this is something very important for our ministry. We expect a revision of the monitoring program that I mentioned before by the end of the year. And so according to this revision, litter and microlitter, including microplastics, shall be monitored on the coastline, in the surface layer of the water column of the seabed, and in the seabed sediment, and information on the source and pathway of the litter will be collected where feasible. So this is also something very important, and we have also to give details and report to the EU for this data. Maybe it's interesting for you to know that we are now discussing the Green Public Procurement Ministerial Decision. It was under public consultation, and we will finalize it very quickly, as soon as possible. And concerning that, we will start with the public sector. Public procurement will have some obligations for green procurement. Companies that adapt to that will have a competitive advantage. I mentioned that all this is included also actions for single-use plastics, the single-use plastics law, will be included in our national strategy and in our national plan for circular economy for the next period 20 to 2024, where also we adapt in this roadmap that I mentioned before to the EU circular economy law. And coming to the end of this introductory speech, I would like to say that for the Greek Ministry of Environment and Energy, circular economy and issues that are within that concerning single-use plastics and responsible management of single-use plastics are top priority. Not because we want to adapt to the EU legislation, but mainly because we want to change the attitude of the Greek people, of all Greek public to environmental issues, and to make them aware of the new environmental obligations that we have as a country. But we feel that in the end, if you see it also from the point of view of the industry, and I'm now finishing, if you see it from the point of view of the industry, there will be also a competitive advantage for the Greek industry if they adapt to the new obligations early enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Arvosis. Thank you very much for the detailed presentation of the latest development in Greece. Thank you so much. Time is actually running very quickly. So I think we will go directly to our second guest speaker. And anyway, we said that there would be a Q&A at the end. So this would be all right. So our second guest speaker is Mr. Antonis Zorpas from the Cyprus Open University. So, Mr. Zorpas, when we speak about reduction of single-use plastic, a very natural question is actually, are there alternatives? Which alternatives are they? And also the second question is the reduction of waste. We have mentioned a few figures at the beginning, and we've talked about the plastic waste. So how could, what would be the way, which ways do we have today when we think about this specific topic to move forward and to find solution? More and more speak about economy, circular economy, about the 3 R's in circular economy. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sophie. You're very kind for this introduction, and also thank you, Kostas, for the initiatives that Greece we will apply. Your question is a very challenge, actually, Sophie. So first of all, we must answer something that is related with this unique material, which it's an amazing from one point of view, and can be turned into several forms. It is obviously that, generally speaking, that plastics transport our transport system, health, and the way we live. However, as you already mentioned, half of the plastics produced annually is a single use of plastic, and that is where the key problem arises. But there are many, many ways why plastics are produced, and many reasons. In general, money why waste are produced. Among those, it's the level of incomes, it's the way we live, it's the standard of living. But most, for me, challenging, it's the advertising material. And it's true that we will never stop being consumers. And taking, for example, to advertising effect is good that it's dealing with Black Friday and the Cyber Monday. We are running to buy products, sometimes we don't need them, but it's this product which often contains, maybe consists of, or are packaged in an recycled plastic, one use sometimes, and could end up in oceans or incinerate or in soils. it is well known that it's Professor Aravosis mentioned that both circular economy and European Green Deal has some target initiatives. So to increase prosperity while reducing dependence on primary materials, circular economy also aim on plastic and chemicals and packaging materials and on services. On the other hand, the European Green Deal has a clear vision on how to achieve a climate neutrality by 2050 by applying the well-known SDGs. Focuses on bio-based, promoting the circular bioeconomy, or to rebuild our plastic economy. So both circular economy and European Green Deal have, to be honest, one target, a real target, to develop a common strategy directly related with the value chain in order to control our daily needs, our requirements, to minimize our footprint by controlling all our activities. Both of them are correlated with, from my point of view, two very, very important SDGs, SDG 12 and SDG 14. 12, it focuses on the sustainable consumption and the production of patterns, and goal 14 on the converse sustainability of use of oceans, sea and marine resources. But this is where the second truth is coming. Plastic is going to last for hundreds of years yet, and this is more than true. We will never stop using plastics, for sure. And just to realize how we pollute, we produce approximately 300 million tons of plastic each year worldwide, which half of them is single use of plastic. This is nearly equivalent to the weight of the entire human population. And as Sophie, you mentioned at the beginning, it's by the end of 2050, according to many forecasts, we're going to have in the oceans more plastic than fish. Worldwide, almost 2 million tons each minute is disposed of plastic. But on the other hand, we cannot stop the development in some countries. For example, if we take the example of India, there is a strong link between poverty and plastics. And as we're talking about single use of plastics, for poor communities, for poor communities, it's a way of accessing a number of products. For example, soap, shampoos, toothpaste. So there is an obviously difference in the luxury between different sections of society and socioeconomic groups. So this strong link between poverty is plastic. It's something that plays significant roles on any strategic development. And there is a myth in equation. Can we really be a zero plastic? Using waste and resources is a key to become more resource efficiency. At the end of their life, we know that plastic are still too valuable, either to recycle them or to produce fuels. Also, there are several debates. If we take the example of pandemic, there are several debates related with the direct and indirect effects of COVID-19 pandemic on economics globally and locally. At the same time, there are limited research related with the environmental dimension of COVID. For example, why will the positive impact of the pandemic in the environment are resulting from a postponed anthropogenic activities that will soon come to the end. The negative short-term effects that are mostly related with the use of the consumption and waste mismanagement are not well known yet. This is also true. Also, we have something that we are discussing, comparing legislation and plastic pollution. Many countries have recently made specific declaration to reduce plastic waste, but are slow moving in regards to actual physical laws that demand a change. There are many, many pitfalls as to why this occurs, but one very important and major from my point of view is the lobby of special interest of groups. Take the example, for example, of India again, that announced in 2015 that will abandon plastic by 2022, or the example of Rwanda that mentioned that they will forbid the plastic waste in 2009. And all those that we are mentioning, they are very, very, very good on papers. All those measures are very, very good on papers. In Cyprus, for example, we have reduced the single use of plastic up to 90% only in the point sale when we checking out of any supermarket. So how we promote and will suggest any initiative if we cannot change our attitude and our behavior. So what is needed as a final truth, a new plastic economy and the demands of a new approach is more than needed for our days. So take into account something that Anna Granath, the product development manager of IKEA, mentioned. We need a new mindset development. We need to find alternatives for our circular system. Imagine, for example, to have your kitchen, a new kitchen from recycled bottles, or the chairs that you will buy in your living room to be 55% of the remaining plastic recycled materials. Or we have to change the way that we consider bio. For example, we need plastics. It's cheap materials and it is able to be used. So as we will never stop using plastic, we need to design a new plastic materials from bio-based. Either those will be extracted from biomass, as we need building materials such as lignin and cellulose to produce bioplastic, or to cultivate, for example, corn and GMO corn to produce bio materials. So as 10% from my point of view worldwide from the plastic that we generate is being recycled, it's a global momentum behind the plastic action, which is unstoppable. This is true. And the main players, stakeholders, companies have a huge role in transforming the way we use plastic. Many are stepping up to shoulder this responsibility. Also, a new mindset must be enforced in a political level, and to increase recycle through smarter product design, better sorting, and increase the gate fees, for example, for recycling materials in anywhere. And the biggest issue for me is contributes to plastic waste pollution are policy, education, and awareness. So we need to boost and to emphasize on education level, to develop educational program and a lot of awareness activities through the smart equipment that we use in a daily basis. So closing, I would like to say that if we would like to change, we must put more effort. And if we want to win the game, we must first start playing. So this is true. And I'd like to thank CSR Europe for this opportunity, provide me to share my know-how about the single use of plastics. Thank you very much, Sophie.
Thank you very much, Antonis. So we've listened to, the Greek ministry, now to the academic world. So now it's time for representative from businesses. So our first testimonial from the business world is with Ms. Davroula Angelopoulos, representing the OTE group. OTE is actually one of Greece's largest technology group with approximately 11,000 employees. Yes, and I've heard that actually you are currently running zero single-use plastic program. So please share with us your best practices and also maybe the challenges you are meeting. Please.
All right. Thank you, Sophie. Let me try and share my screen. Can you all see my screen now? Yes?
Yes.
Good. All right. So actually, as Sophie mentioned, for those of you who don't know, OTE Group is a member of Deutsche Telekom, which is a worldwide telco company. And the point that is very important is that we have 12,000 employees, because this is where this presentation is actually focusing. And what I mean by that is how we managed to run a reduction single-use plastic program that needs the involvement of so many employees. Believe me, I've lived through this for the last almost 2 years, because we started the program in 2019. And although I would like to tell you it was a piece of cake, it was not at all. It was a huge challenge. We did manage to bring the results. However, it took a lot of work, and it takes a lot of work every day. This is the implementation scope, which in simple words means that this is a program that is addressing 70% of our manpower. And this is almost, well, it's more than 8,000 employees in our 7 main buildings. And we started it actually 2 years before the national legislation is put into place. And we were quite confident and very mature by then, because we're running for many years recycling programs. And then we reached a point where we said, this is the time to really measure what we consume and start talking about reduction instead of just recycling. Now, the difficult exercise, we thought at the beginning that the difficult exercise was to measure how much we consume. So here you can see that we started with 3 main targets, and we saw that we were consuming 1.2 million of plastic cups in our main buildings. And in my personal opinion, this is actually higher, but we didn't have the perfect measurement, so we thought that's a safe bet. And then 1 million plastic bottles, and we were sure that we were consuming 1.5 million plastic bags in our retail network. And we thought it is about time that we set some ambitious targets. So these are the targets that we initially set. I must tell you from now that we've covered all this and we've even done more. But what's more important for me to share with you is that the challenges that we had to face were at some point really, really tough. We thought maybe we cannot do this. And when I say challenge, actually, before I tell you about the challenges, it's vital to tell you that the number one winning point in this was the commitment of the management. If you don't get the commitment, this is too tough to handle. And the reason I'm saying this, the moment a company of our size decides to announce such a target, there are a lot of stakeholders that see it in a positive or in a negative way. For example, the factories that produce single-use plastic in a country listen to a company of our size that could also be a client of ours, and a dialogue starts. It's not an easy phase. So if you have the commitment, I think it's the most important thing. And if I had to name 5 challenges in making it happen, I would say convince the stakeholders, like in our case, the canteens, the caterers, the restaurants that we've got in our building. In our main building, we have a restaurant that addresses 2,500 people. And this is changing their everyday operations. Can you imagine one day, and this is not happening in one day, this is not death of single-use plastic from today to tomorrow. We needed maybe 6 to 7 months of preparation. Tell them that they cannot use plastic cups anymore, which means there is a chain of events that will be affected. Like they will need to use glasses, and then they will need to have maybe more dishwashers, or more people doing the job of collecting glasses around, and so on. So sometimes we had a lot of tough debates to handle. And also, sometimes you can't find alternatives. If you don't use a plastic cup, what's the best next thing to use? Yes, you can use maybe biodegradables, or you can use a paper cup. However, sometimes they're very expensive. They're not enough out there. And people are very used to consuming specific things. So they might want their coffee in a specific cup, and you have to change their whole habit. It sounds sometimes that it's trivial, but it's not when you attempt to do it to a population of 8,000-9,000 people. And also budget. Sometimes you will need budget to cover a lot of extra expenses that you have, like putting water dispensers in every floor so people will have access to running water because they cannot buy a plastic bottle. And awareness and communication for me are vital, because you will need to be very close to the communication team, because together you can actually address the issue. And it's not a matter of addressing it once. You will need to go back and inform people and explain why you're doing it and what's in there for them and why they should be doing it along with you. Now our results look like this. We ended up, instead of having a reduction of 50%, we don't have any more plastic bottles. We do have glass bottles though, and in the beginning we saw in our reporting that instead of, well, we were reducing all the plastic consumption, but the glass consumption was being raised. So we thought this is not going to work. So we really engaged on how to actually ask people to bring their multiple use water bottles. And I know it sounds very easy for somebody to just have the bottle with them, but from my experience, people, although they want to change and try something different, sometimes it's completely out of their habits to bring their multiple use coffee cup or their water bottle with them. And now I'm very proud to say that after maybe 2 years, we've reached a point where we don't have plastic cutleries and plastic food packages in our restaurants as well. To conclude all this and to share my experience with you, the three main areas where we thought we need to put our forces was the actual operational actions. You can see here on the left that we've managed to ban pretty much everything after 2 years, but the work behind it, I think, was one of the toughest projects that we had to do in my experience. As I said, the awareness and the information you're giving to people is vital. I would say commitment from the one side, but then you need to know what you're communicating. People have their own problems, especially in the Greece of crisis in so many years. So sometimes all the environmental related issues or projects come as a nice to have project. So you need to explain to them why we're doing this and why they should work with us in this. And we were very surprised to see that after the first stage of maybe it was a bit tough to change their attitude, now employees, as from the surveys we see, are very happy to be working in a company that is trying to change the culture. And last but not least, we have decided that you need to train the key stakeholders. To give you an example, we have managed to educate 2,000 people in a face-to-face training, which is very demanding, but it's very productive on the other hand, because if you sit across the other person and explain in maybe 30 minutes why and how to have an alternative, and actually listen to their objections and try to modify your program, then I think this brings an even better result. So that concludes in maybe 6 or 7 minutes the way we approached it. So the only thing that I want to share with you is that we have a lot of things to improve and a lot of things that we learn every day, because this is an ongoing dynamic process. It's not something that you do and once you deliver it, you forget about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stavroula. So from one testimonial to another, from one business to another, now, please, the floor is yours, Ms. Kelly Dovletoglu from Lidl. So Lidl is an international supply chain group, supermarket chain, sorry, what did I say? Supermarket chain. Please, can you share with us how you've been and how you are currently working with this single-use plastic reduction within your business, with the specific challenges that you meet along your supply chain? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sophie. To begin with, thank you very much for the invitation and the opportunity to take part in today's panel about responsible management of single-use plastics. So let me start with some general things about Lidl Retail Company. So if we can move to the next slide, the next one. Lidl Retail Company is, no, the previous one, the first one. Thank you very much. So Lidl Retail Company is part of Schwarz Retail Group and basically is represented in 32 countries. It operates around 11,200 stores and more than 200 logistics centers and warehouses in 29 countries worldwide. In addition to that, it has more than 310,000 employees. And Lidl Hellas, on the other hand, has 225 stores, operates in 5 logistics centers and warehouses, and has more than 6,500 employees. Our motto in our daily trading assumes responsibility for people, society, and the environment. So moving on, we would like to discuss today about Reset Plastics strategy. It's our international holistic strategy that started in 2018 by the Schwarz Group and reflects our vision to less plastic, so closed loops. We approach the issue in a more comprehensive way using our know-how to reduce plastic and close loops. Lidl Hellas, as part of the Schwarz Group, is committed to 2 subordinated goals. Mainly that by 2025, our goal is to make 100% of our store brand packaging maximum recyclable, and also to use 20% less plastic by 2025. To make the complexity a little bit more understandable, we have introduced 5 areas of actions that illustrate the subject overall. So we have the 5 Rs, as we call them: reduce, redesign, recycle, remove, and research. To discuss a little bit about more about each of the fields. So we reduce wherever it's possible plastic, not only in packaging. We design recyclable packaging and close loops. We collect and recycle plastic to close the loop as well. We support the removal of plastic waste from the environment. And last but not least, regarding the research field, we invest in research and the development of innovative solutions and educate on recycling. In a nutshell, Reset Plastic is not only about eliminating plastic, it's about a new awareness for plastic and fundamentally change the way we treat plastic. So if we continue to the next slide, I will talk about the actions that we have listed under each of the fields. By starting with the reduce action, we have listed all disposable carrier bags in 2018 and offer alternatives made of papers as well as usable carrier bags. By doing so, we have saved 842 tons of plastic annually. Furthermore, we listed single-use plastic article in 2019. That makes us the first retail company in Greece doing so. Before the European directive in 2021 is taking effect. So disposable crockery, cotton buds, drinking straws, and etc. from our own brand range are being delisted, and wherever possible, we replace the articles with more sustainable alternatives. By doing so, we save 215 tons of plastic annually. Moving on to the next slide. We are very delighted to inform you about the action listed under the field of research. It's about the first SUP-free hackathon. It's a synergy between Laskaridis Charitable Foundation, us, and the Ministry of Environment and Energy. It's the first SUP-free hackathon in Greece, the first open innovation action in the context of Greek-free of single-use plastics, the national campaign, and aims to encourage society and businesses to create prototype applications and solutions contributing to technology to a life free of single-use plastics. It is open to engineers, to researchers, to developers, to economists. Basically, it's open to everyone who wants to turn their ideas regarding reducing single-use plastics to an integrated application. So the action is part of an open innovation roadmap implementing the SUP-Free Innovation Lab, and includes the organization of the Innovation Marathon, followed by a 5-month cycle providing support in order to turn the prototype application of the 5 distinguished teams into productive solutions. In June, we will have the first out of the 5 distinguished teams who will win the marathon. So moving on to the next slide. Let me mention about the plastic-free Santorini campaign, which is under the fields of reduce and recycle. It is also a joint initiative with the Ministry of Tourism and the Municipality of Santorini, and aims to declare Santorini as an island with special environmental sensitivities. But it's not only that, at the same time, it's a global message of sustainable development for the island itself, but also our country. In this context, in the end of September, as a representative of our company, but also volunteers of the Lascaris Foundation, have visited the island for the second time and joined forces in order to protect our environment by undertaking several coastal and underwater cleaning. Furthermore, moving to the next slide, we are delighted to mention that under the same fields, reduce and recycle, we are sponsoring for the second year the performance of Antonios Vivaldi's 4 Seasons in a more touching more green subjects. It is a creative synergy between the Greek National Opera and Little Hellas. And is touching major issues related to our attitude towards the environment and the dangers threatening it. Reduction of in the use of plastics, recycling, food waste, circular economy, all subjects that are being presented to children in a more playful and entertaining way, developing their ecological awareness and artistic education. Continuing to the next slide, we have the action under the redesign field. A new action, we have a new sustainable packaging for the private label self-select ready-to-eat meals. Under the 20% less plastic subordinated goal by 2025, we have reduced the plastic of the container and at the same time removed the plastic lid, thus ensuring a total reduction of plastic by 43% per package. For this action, we have also gained the Bronze Award in the category Sustainable Packaging in the Packaging Awards 2020. Last but not least, we have the last slide and the action under the remove field. For 4 months, we have, from May to August, we have covered the expenses for the cleaning of the Thermaikos Gulf with the help of the specially designed and pollution boat Alkipi. We support the effort of the Ministry of Macedonian tries to remove the excess waste, phytoplankton and red tide that poured on the coastal axis of Thessaloniki. So during these 4 months, we have managed to collect the waste about 37.2 cubic meters, which is a lot. And with this slide, I close the loop of the Reset Plastics tragedy, and which is also an ongoing project. So hopefully we are going to list under each of these 5 fields even more actions next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kelly. And definitely time is really running. All of you for your information, we will, since we started with a slight delay due to technical problems, we will have 10 more minutes. So we will end our session today at 40 instead of 30, nevertheless. So to introduce actually our guest speaker, Miss Baxweiler from Fidelity International Luxembourg, just a few words about the project that we are driving in Luxembourg, since Miss Baxweiler is actually a part among her role as Senior Manager Corporate Services at Fidelity International Luxembourg. She is also actually a Zero Single-Use Plastic ambassador in the project that we've been driving since 2008 in Luxembourg at IMS Luxembourg, so the Luxembourg leading network for CSR. We have today more or less 74 signatories from all sector, all size. And our project is based on the European directive, which was that time was only a draft, and then which was voted. Next slide, please. So next slide, please. Thank you. So this is a manifesto we have launched with several activities. The main one is really to reduce single-use plastics within the organizations of the signatories that we have. And actually to align with what Stavros has said, for example, at ODE, this is one activity that we have asked our signatories is to designate an ambassador, to be able really to have one contact person and one responsible person within the organization. Next slide, please. So today, as it is, so our manifesto or project includes the main items included in the European directive, from cups to bottles to boxes, packaging of sweet and snacks, etc. And all in all, with our among approximately, with our 74 signatories today, we will actually have approximately 160 tons of single-use plastic, which will be avoided by the end, from start of 2021. So a very, very quick introduction to Lilian, who will actually share with you some best practices about how it has been how they have been doing with this manifesto at Fidelity in Luxembourg. So please, Lilian.
Thank you, Sophie. Yes, so, and I shall be fast, I promise you. So please, next slide. Yeah, so we signed the manifesto that Sophie just spoke about as a company in Luxembourg. We have, of course, an international base. So we sat down and we created a plan. What are we going to do? And so it's bigger, of course, in a company our size. It's much bigger than just single-use plastic. And also, we are all aware that these things are intertwined. We know this. So we made a big scope. Next slide, please. So we did very traditional things, which I think we can do, which is what we call obvious and quick wins. We introduced the porcelain cup. We rearranged our tea stations. We removed all water plastic bottles from the vending machines, and instead we installed the tap that you can see here. So that tap provides flat water and sparkling water to our employees, and also hot water for tea. But that meant that we could remove all the plastic bottles of water and sparkling from the vending. And these initiatives were sort of somewhat straightforward. It was what we called quick wins. I know that I appreciate, my colleague before speaking about how difficult it is, on washing machines and educating the people, but nevertheless, it was a little bit more straightforward. Next slide, please. This is one where you would say, wow, that looks, strange. But we sat down and we said, how are we going to manage our office supplies? So office supplies is a huge cost and lots of plastic, lots of single-use plastic in office supplies. in office supplies. So we went back to the root problem and we said, well, paper actually is the problem. If we don't have paper, well, we don't need files, we don't need scissors, we don't need staplers, we don't need anything if we don't have paper. So we set about, and this was difficult, we set about emptying our archive rooms. We removed 50% of all cupboards in the office, and thereby the paper that was inside. We ended up with hundreds of folders, you know, these classeurs, as you can see, ring binders that you can see. We donated them to schools. And in the end, our stationery cupboards, now today, our stationery cupboards are really, really limited because people don't have paper. They don't need anything anymore. This was really, really something that had a major impact on our business and on our cost bottom line. We could give archive space back to the landlord, so we're talking real estate money, and the savings we have in our office supplies and including copy paper, because as people don't have any place to put the paper, you know, no cupboards, no archive, well, they don't print. That was tough, but it is possible. Next slide, please. I would also like to speak about some other initiatives we went in parallel with, which is a little bit different. So we got rid of our plastic bottles where we have milk, we have coffee machines, and we have an enormous milk consumption. We went over and we took a Tetra Pak, as you can see here, and also went with a local supplier of milk. So this was also important for us, which challenged a lot of our vendors for the packaging. So, you know, bubble wrap is a big plastic thing when they ship things to us. And this solution there on the second picture, actually it's paper. And it's cut in a way that when you unfold it, it's like a harmonica, and it wraps just like bubble wrap, but it's paper. So that was fantastic. I love that idea. We also created bags for our employees, sustainable bags, which they could use for shopping. So our employees take it when they go out for lunch even, and they buy their things and they can come back and they hang the bag back up on the wall. We also challenged something like our fruit supplier. So these baskets there, that's now possible. The fruit supplier will deliver your fruit and take the basket back and then fill it up with fruit and bring it back again. So all these things helped us eliminate plastic. So this was a little bit of testimonial about what we did. Next slide, please. I just wanted to let you know on the last slide that we looked at this in a much broader scope, and now we have a plan up till 2040, where we are going to look at all aspects of ESG, because it is, of course, it comes in a much wider category. So these were things that we did. So thank you well, it was really interesting to have been a part of this. Very challenging. Thank you.
Thank you, Lilian. Thank you so much. Well, to wrap up, we have actually only 4 minutes left. Alexandros from CSR Hellas. Are you there? Yes, great, Alexandros. So welcome to you also. So to wrap up the session, how CSR Hellas support actually in the roadmap that Mr. Rausis talked about in the first part of our roundtable.
Thank you, Sophie, for the moderation and for sharing with all of us your experience also leading this innovative project in Luxembourg. It was indeed a great panel full of knowledge and insights that gave us food for thought. So let's think about our responsibilities as humans, as leaders, as businesses, as societies. So just a few words as member of the board of CSR Europe. I can say that both CSR Europe itself and its NPO, its national partner organization, are increasing their attention and efforts towards assisting their members tackling environmental issues, undertaking initiatives that assist actually their members, businesses and business associations actually, to better understand their role and to map their ability to tackle an active role on that change. So answering to your question, I think that we are trying to mobilize, we're trying to raise awareness, we're trying to partner, to create synergies around all stakeholders. So I think that there is a long way that we have done that, and we have the future ahead of us in order to increase the collaboration in that issue. So I don't want to take much more time from maybe questions that we have. So again, it's an initiative that we have already taken in Greece. With the participation of 10 members of ours, we have created a working group, and we are working together in order to have some priorities, let's say, and for sure support the legislative context, and on the other side, try to find innovative ways of collaborating among ourselves. So that's for my side. Thank you again for your moderation, and the floor is yours again.
Thank you so much. Since unfortunately we are running out of time, we will unfortunately need to skip the Q&A session. So of course, if any in the audience has any questions regarding today's presentation, don't hesitate to contact directly CSR Hellas, CSR Europe, or IMS Luxembourg, and of course the other guest speakers we've had today. To end up in one word, I think the testimonials from businesses we have today have shown how significant the changes are. You may think that just replacing a plastic cup by a multiple-use cup is very easy. What we have shown today is that it's absolutely feasible and possible, but it absolutely requires motivation, commitment, engagement throughout all over the organization. And as you've said very rightly, a plan from start, awareness, commitment, and communication. This would be my last words. Thank you all. I wish you a very good afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.